Hey guys, Thomas Sicily Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Toy Story 4. So this is an interesting movie, as a lot of people, a lot of reviewers included, felt that Toy Story 3 was a pretty good conclusion to this Toy Story trilogy, and when it was announced that there was going to be a Toy Story 4, there was a lot of people saying that that wasn't necessary. That it had reached its final conclusion, that making another one would have been a complete cash grab. However, I think a lot of people are now being completely flipped on this after seeing the movie now. As far as the reviews I've seen so far, I've not seen all of them. I've seen like 2 or 3. That are saying now that, this is actually a really good Toy Story movie. Another great addition to this Toy Story franchise. And so I checked it out myself before I saw the reviews, and then I saw the reviews afterwards. And this is going to be a spoiler review of my own picking. So this movie actually starts off in a flashback, and we actually see what happened to Bo Peep and I think the car's name was RC, just RC, and how he was somehow left outside. Okay, I will say, for the sake of being fair, I do think that the beginning part of the movie is a bit rushed. There are elements in the beginning of the movie that are a bit rushed, including the scene how RC got out there is a complete mystery, but he is out there. They are trying to save him. He's getting pulled further and further out. Bo Peep was in the sister's room of the two human characters, Andy, and then I think the sister's name is Molly, if I remember that correctly. So they're trying to save this toy, RC. Everyone's joining in, and they make their way outside. They grab RC, Woody, of course, being the front man of the situation. He's the one grabbing RC. They're trying to pull him back, the various other toys helping him from behind. But they are running out of time as people are returning to the home and making their way upstairs. So he's pulled up, and he sees that Bo Peep was pulled away in one of these boxes of like, oh, get rid of these toys, and Bo Peep was among them. So this is a explanation to explain what happened to Bo Peep, as well as the RC, and pulling him, trying to get him back in. So after that, we see that we get a montage of the things Andy playing with the toys, growing up, and handing the reins over to Bonnie, the new child of these of the current toys. That being Woody, and his companions, the pig, the T-Rex, Buzz, Jessie, the little the horse that they have, those toys from the previous installments. So, again, they are really just zipping past a lot of information, but to be fair, at least in this montage, this is just a recap of the previous movies, so I think that one's a little bit more fair in regards to just saying, okay, this happened, let's go. So, again, we see that, and we see that Bonnie is also getting ready for school. So Woody's freaking out that she's not going to have a great time, so he decides to go with her, after being sort of left behind as one of the toys that are left behind. And it kind of sets up for what's going to happen later on in the movie. So he goes to school with her, and she's very shy and very timid, sitting by herself. So Woody decides to get out of the bag, make his way to the trash, pull out a bunch of things, including a spork and the little string attached in the two icicle sticks, and then moving all of that stuff to her, discreetly, of course. So after that, he sort of watches on as she builds Forky, this new toy, quote unquote, that she just builds, and brings that along with her back, along with Woody, as they sort of both make their way back, and we see that life is brought into this new toy named Forky, that is a spork. So, just to make the fun comparison to the real life, Forky is a character who believes that he belongs in the trash. And, if I were to make that connection to the real life, I feel like I'm the YouTuber who belongs in the trash. So I feel very akin to the Forky. Unfortunately, unlike Toy Story 4, there aren't a lot of Woodies on the YouTube. There aren't a lot of people who would go out of their way, the big sheriffs of YouTube, that would go out of their way to help a little Forky out. Those don't exist on YouTube, but they do exist in Pixar, and I do appreciate that much of the movie for handing down the reins. Something I've become a really huge fan of. Especially in this movie, I really do appreciate the passing down of the reins, the passing down of the torch, because it's just something that doesn't exist on YouTube, and it's a damn shame that it doesn't. So there's another call out to all you big YouTubers who refuse to pass down your own reins to the future new YouTubers and small YouTubers combined. Anyways, getting back to the movie, here is one of the montages that I don't think should have been a part of the movie. They should have kind of let the scene play out. It's, Forky, just Forky is making his way, trying to always get in the trash, and it shows a little montage of that, and it's like, haha, he's always going in the trash. And then it cuts to him, eventually getting out of the van that they are traveling in, because they're traveling. And Woody decides that, of course, he has to be the one to be the front man, the one who's always risking his own safety to get another toy back. So he jumps out, he goes to get Forky, and once he does, they're slowly making their way back, they're sort of just walking back, and it sort of just cuts and cuts and cuts of several different discussions that they are having. I think having some of those play out a little bit longer, especially the ones that make Forky happier, the ones that allow Forky to accept what he is as a toy, I think those should have been kept in. I felt that those were necessary, but they kind of just cut past them, and I do feel like that part of the movie, again, it's one of those rushed scenes that one in particular, I'm like, you probably should have really laid that out. Because, it is a new character, we should be getting to know this new character. So they're trying to make their way back, and they're walking, and the van is already, zipped past. So they eventually make their way, and, they make their way to this antique shop, and Woody sees something that reminds him of Bo Peep, after all this time. So he makes his way inside, as now Forky's convinced that he should go back because he is validated as his own trash that belongs to Bonnie. He's Bonnie's trash, as he says. But Woody is now convinced that he should check this out, see what's going on with Bo Peep. And in the sake of all of this, he ends up coming across Gabby and her myriad of ventriloquist dolls that are on their own. And she is the antagonist of the film, but I'm not going to say she's the villain of the film, necessarily. More of, she tries to indeed get in Woody's way, try to prevent his progress, even wanting as far as his voice box to get accepted into the world of toys, because her voice box was broken somehow. And yeah, there is a part later on that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but whatever. Anyway, he's trying to find Bo Peep because of the memories, and in the process, Forky ends up coming back to try to get him. So, like, Forky's, like, they end up, like, getting separated, getting chased all around that store as it's empty. So Woody sees a human come by, and so he decides, he has to play the toy, so he falls down. He's carried out of the store while Forky is left behind. So the new mission is now, of course, to get Forky out of this antique shop. Meanwhile, the other toys, the ones primarily led by Buzz and Jessie, I would say, those two are sort of the main front lines of the car, are sort of trying to figure out what's going on, what they can do. And they eventually get more and more ambitious as they go along, as they make further and further distance away from the toys that they were associated with and that left. So, meanwhile, Woody gets picked up by this other girl, and then, she's sort of playing with him a bit, and then as soon as she goes off, he tries to make his way back. So he has to make his way through this, like, little carnival-like area, and he eventually does indeed run into Bo Peep after a whole slew of, like, just trying to avoid humans. So Bo Peep has gone through a dramatic change, and for the better. Her character has deeply developed as a independent toy living out for herself, and she is convinced that this little carnival area is where she likes to hang out. And, she does things on her own, and I'm greatly appreciative of whenever the writing is not like, oh, I'm a woman, and I don't need no man, or, the thing that was in an X-Men and one of the previous movie reviews where it was like, oh, you're good at the Men in Black review, I also mentioned this as well, the international one. It's like, come on, you don't need that shitty dialogue. Here you have Bo Peep just being a badass. There you go. Boom. Problem solved. And she's a fantastic character now. Where I did feel like in the first Toy Story, which she was primarily featured in, her character, or lack thereof, wasn't really had much going for her, but now she's severely developed, and I really do appreciate that, and none of the dialogue from her feels, bad. So she's living out her own life, and Woody's, of course, still feeling like he has his mission, so he convinces her to come along and help on this mission. Meanwhile, in the van, Buzz is trying to figure out this whole inner voice thing that Woody mentions in some part of the movie, so he ends up exiting the van, and ends up running off to this carnival area, and it ends up getting picked up by this guy, where these two plush toys, the ones on the right side of the poster, the duck and the bunny plush toys, end up seeing him, and they're a little bit jealous because they want to finally get picked out to be somebody's toy. So they're like messing with him, and he's also trying to get out on his own. He eventually does, and brings the two of them along with him. So he sort of makes his way, continuing to use his buttons to like try to figure out what to do. And also conveniently, I will say this is another convenience for the movie, is that whenever he presses a button, it happens to tell him the right thing to do. And it is played pretty seriously. I think they were trying to make it a bit more humorous than that. But yeah, it does kind of get in the way a little bit later on. Anyways, so Buzz Lightyear is making his way, trying to find out where Woody is, and while that's going on, Woody and Bo Peep are continuing to make their way back to the antique store, and Forky has been like set up in this like little locked area, so Bo Peep wants a little bit of assistance, so she brings Woody back to this like back of the store area where they meet another new character played by Keanu Reeves. This biker guy, forget his name. His name is like Kabloom or something like that. I don't know. And he's doing all these poses and like saying how like he's a stunt guy and how he was abandoned. You know, that sort of shtick. His kid looked at the advertisement. The advertisement did not stick true to the toy, so he was not interested in the toy, so he got left behind. So he's there with a bunch of other toys that I would also assume were sort of also left behind to some extent. And she's trying to get his help, and she convinces him to help them as well. So now that they have this ability to use his bike, they do so, able to cross some gaps along the way. So Woody, as he made his way back to that store, that is when he encountered Buzz and the other two the plushies attack him, and then Woody convinces the two of them that Bonnie will definitely pick them up and be like, yep, those are my new toys. So yeah, they join the mission. So it's Woody, Buzz, Bo Peep, and the two plushies making their way back inside to the antique store. Woody gets distracted, making his way out too early. Ends up like almost sacrificing the mission because he sees Bonnie coming in. That's what it was. So he's trying to make his way back. Bo Peep manages to get him back to focus back on the mission at hand, making sure they're not getting caught, but they end up getting caught. There's a little bit of fighting back and forth here between them and these ventriloquist dummies. As Gabby is like setting up for this human that she believes is hers, named Harmony. And where I thought they were going with it is not where they ended up going. I was a little bit thrown off, and that was a pleasant surprise. I thought that this new girl, Harmony, was going to interact at some point with Bonnie, but that didn't end up happening at all. I thought that's where it was going, but no. Anyways, they get back on track after some attacking, and they make their way inside. And Gabby makes it pretty clear that she wants Woody's little string again. She makes that pretty clear. That is her goal. And there's a little bit more of a tussle involved, and ends up going all the way to where the toys that are on the mission are all get swept aside because there's this whole commotion with this cat that is in between them. There's like this big open area with the cat, the area that they're in, which is like this huge cabinet, and this area to the right where they end up going, which is this little hideout area. So all the toys, all our hero toys, end up going to the right side, except for Forky, who still remains captured after the fact of all that mission stuff. So everyone feels like we kind of messed that up. There's no way we're gonna be able to get back in there. Uh, all except for Woody, of course, who still feels like this is his mission. He is not going to give up on his mission. And Bo Peep says, like, this is about you. And in part, that is partially true. And we can kind of hear that throughout the movie of, like, he thinks about Andy pretty briefly at some point in the movie, it's all a part of his mission, etc., over and over again. But to be fair, to Woody's credit, his mission does have a bit of jest behind it, he does feel deep down that this is Bonnie's main toy, and that's his mission. So it does play a bit of a double-edged sword here, and that is a pretty interesting little take there. So the remaining toys head back, and Woody actually goes back in, and he's willing to sacrifice his little string thing in the back to get Forky back. So they do the transfer successfully, I guess, and it's by some means of miracle. I will say that this is a bit of like suspend your disbelief, because boy, oh boy, it just works. The voice box somehow converts to her voice somehow. I'm not sure how that works. I was almost expecting his voice to come out of her, but no, it's just her voice fixed. So she's all thankful, and now Woody doesn't have that anymore. So he gets Forky back, while the others have distinctly really got out of their way to make sure that the family would make their way back. They are now messing with the car all over, telling them to go towards the antique shop, making sure they are there, even with the police chasing them, and all that stuff. So all the toys are converging to one location now. But, before Woody heads back to Bonnie, he sees that Forky's all super interested in seeing what would become of Gabby, who sees her, her claimed human, as she puts it, or her person, and she, props herself up, gets ready, and Harmony makes her way over there to where she is, and picks Gabby up, looks at her, pulls the string, listens to it, and is like, meh! Just throws her away without a second thought. Oof. What a big oof moment. And that's the part where you just sort of feel for Gabby. Woody was willing to make that big sacrifice, and it all kind of fell apart on her, and she felt like she didn't even want that voice box anymore. But Woody was like, no. He goes up to her and, after the fact, and then he's all like, no, you deserve to keep it. You clearly want a human to help, so you keep that, I don't need it anymore, or whatever. They eventually rush their way back. All the while, everyone's sort of converging. Everyone else is like converging toward this carnival-like area. The car has stopped. They make the toys are like on the roof or whatever, and Forky. They make their way back with Forky, and then they use Forky to like help them. All the while, Woody is like separated from him, with Bo Peep and the others, the plushies, as they're doing their own separate. They're trying to make their way back because they got separated. So as they're making their way back, and Gabby is with them at this point, they're like on top of the carnival. They're like making their way through. They once again use the prowess of Mr. Kabloom, or again whatever his name is, to make this huge gap that they need to make. He makes it across, only hitting his head across this little tube, and then they all make. He like transfers over a rope. They are able to cross along there. To make it to this other side where they're able to finally meet with all the other toys. So, now that everyone's pretty much in the same area, this is where things get even more interesting, as, you know, they're all celebrating, all doing their own thing, and Bo Peep throughout the movie has been convincing Woody that, you know, this whole lifestyle of being free is, you know, good, and it's his choice. And before they actually meet, they see that Gabby saw another human who was crying, this girl, and so they help her out to like get her in a position where she can be seen by this lost girl. Lost girl sees this Gabby toy, picks her up. Pulls the string and then hugs her, and then this girl brings Gabby to this policewoman, and then the policewoman helps her find her family. So Gabby now has her place where she belongs. All the while, Woody had been convinced throughout the movie that, you know, this whole freedom thing is pretty cool, and we saw earlier in the movie that he was the one left behind in the closet, finally being shelved, as it were. So, after a good talk, a good meaningful talk, Woody's, you know, he's getting ready to leave, and then kind of keeps looking back at Bo Peep, and then, it finally gets back to her, you know, willing to be with her instead, making that choice. So he passes down the reins to Jessie, gives the sheriff badge to her, says goodbye to everybody, especially Buzz. You know, the best romance in the story. So he remains with Bo Peep, and the rest of the toys say goodbye. And that is a pretty surprising ending, I will say. And, you know, it does feel like, you know, if 3 felt like a finale, this also feels like a finale in its own right. Woody has found his place alongside Bo Peep in this little carnival area. Jessie has been claimed the sheriff, the main toy, you know, and Forky's with them, and that's sort of Bonnie's main toy as well. So they, you know, those toys all remained with her. Meanwhile, the plushies sort of remained, I guess, with Woody, I guess. And they also helped Gabby find her place as well. Every gap fulfilled. And yeah, that is about that for Toy Story 4. I will say that, again, there was that one gap of, like, you could have expanded upon Forky's character a little bit in that one scene where they were walking back. I do feel that they cheapened out on that part. You know, Woody explaining things and all that, I do think that was a bit of a missed opportunity. However, I do think that this movie picks up incredibly strong as the movie goes along. Where it kind of rushes along the ending, it does sort of pick up and really solidify itself, with the one little caveat of Woody's string somehow works for Gabby. I don't know, that's still, you know, it's still bizarre, that part's still a little bizarre, but whatever. Overall, I will say, I do think that it's still a pretty damn solid movie. And, you know, after a successful Toy Story 4, I could see them really going either way. If they decided to end it here, that's fine. But, you know, we all know Disney, and we all know how they are with sequels, and, you know, this one included. It's not excluded, even though it's good. That, you know, if they see a successful thing, it's like, we should probably keep it going, maybe. So, I wouldn't even be surprised if there was at some point announced a Toy Story 5. I wouldn't even be surprised. But I will say I do think that Woody's story is done. It is just done. So if they were to pick it up, it would probably move on to being Jesse's story, and moving on from there. But, you know, again, this could also just be the last movie for all we know. I don't know. I will say, as far as a score goes, with the little padding issues of rushing it a little bit, I will give this movie a 6 out of 10. I do feel like, again, they could have solidified Forky's character a little bit more in the beginning there to just really make let that scene play out at the beginning. And again, just the little part at the end where it's like, okay, it just works. Things like that. Everything else was really, really solid. So yeah, good job overall. Just a few things here and there that I felt could have been improved, but overall, yeah, 6 out of 10. I think that's a fair score. But hey, if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye.